Sì, no, ti sciogli la no, no. Ah, ¿te quieres sentar vos? Sí, está bueno. Ah, vale. Okay, I guess we can start. Good morning, happy Tuesday. Some announcements at the very beginning. I do apologize for the problems with Katis yesterday. I am completely aware what happened, and I hope it won't happen today. Especially I did some things to make sure that it won't happen again. In particular, the contest is already there. If you look at the camp website, you can click at the link to the contest, and then you can register right now. Try to do it before the contest, it would be very nice. And this will be a team contest, so either just one of you from the team has to register, or you can register as a team and you can add people that are with you in the team. Then all of you can access the contest, and then after the contest, you can access the solutions and so on and so on. I'm sorry. I am aware that the contest yesterday was slightly on the easier side. A lot of people said it to me as well. That was also expected. I wanted to see what is the general level, and I'm generally very positively surprised, not even surprised, like that was what I expected, but I just wanted to confirm that. If you don't know, this was an original regional from 2011, if I remember correctly. So you can imagine how the general level of programming contests has changed since then. So 12 years ago, some of you can single-handedly win the whole competition. So that was something. Yeah, so we won't do anything like that again. So from now on, everything will be a team competition. And also, we probably will go back to NCPC once or twice, but we won't go back 10 years ago. So it will be like similar to the right now level of the programming competition. Any questions? Okay, so let's get started. We'll start by talking about some of the problems from yesterday. If you remember correctly, we had two problems that we haven't finished. The first one was called 15, and it was about this logical puzzle. And the other one was called Ferrate. And it was about choosing some points and solving TSP on these points. Okay, if you haven't noticed, all of these problems were attached to the website of the camp. So at the very bottom, there's a list of links with all of these problems. You can solve them if you want. Okay, so that was your homework, more or less. I wanted you to spend some time to think about it. Do you have any thoughts or ideas about the problem 15? So we wanted, if I will repeat the statement of this problem. So we wanted to check for some original, for some arrangement of this logic puzzle that was given on the input. We want to know if we can reach the final arrangement, which is like this. Right? Everything is sorted and the blank space is at the bottom right corner.
You can think of the numbers in a linear fashion, and when you move the blank square left or right, you're not changing anything in the permutation. But when you go up or down, you're making pretty much 3 swaps.
Kind of, yes. Okay. So it is fairly easier to think about it as a permutation, like not 2D, but just 1D. So we have something like this. And the only allowed moves is either moving the blank space left or right. So even we do this slightly better. So we will not use blank space, but we'll just say that the last space is move 16, and we are only allowed to use 16, move 16. It will be slightly easier to think about it. Okay, so one move is basically to move 16 left or right if it's possible, and the other possible move is to move it forward left, so or forward right, because this is exactly moving this up is basically swapping 12 and 16 here. Okay? So what is happening here? So we already know that if we perform some swap, we are changing the parity of the permutation. So in case we do any of the moves, either this, or this, we are changing the parity of the permutation. But we wanted to have some invariant, something that doesn't change. So can we have something similar to the parity of the permutation, but that does not change with each move?
What I thought is, if you paint the board like in chess, then whenever you change the parity of the permutation, you also change the color where the blank space is located. So the sum of both
yes.
is invariant.
Chess is actually a very good thing to think about here. So every time we are moving the white space on 16, we are changing the coloring on the chessboard. Or even more, like if you can think about it in a different way, we are changing the column plus row with the blank spaces modulo 2. It's exactly the same. Okay? So right now when we think about it, this will be always equal to the parity of the permutation. Okay? Because we know that with each swap we are changing this, because either we have to move in some direction. So we are always moving from white space to the black space, or from black space to the white space. And also parity changes as well. So these two things changes at the same time with each move. Okay? And this is the invariant that works for this problem. So it is not easy to guess, and it's also not easy to prove that it works. So it is easy to know that if the initial position, if the position at the input does not have this invariant, so we can look at what will be the invariant in the final situation. So this is in the, I don't know, I will just use column plus row. So it will be 4 plus 4, so it will be even. And then the parity of the identity permutation is also even. So they will be equal. So if they are not equal in the something that we have on the input, we can say no and don't think about this problem anymore. When they are equal, we should prove that there's a way to reach this position. So there are different ways to do it. We can either just say that it works, and it actually works, but there's it's not during the competition you can guess, it's just like one submission and you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to be really sure, you can just write a short program on the side, just like some backtrack. It doesn't take a lot of time to solve this puzzle. It's like 18 moves maximum or something like that, maybe more than that. But it's something that we can backtrack actually. And then you can see that we can reach the final position from the initial position. Okay? So this problem can be solved either just by guessing, but we need to still have some idea like what might be the invariant for this puzzle. And the invariant is related to the parity of the permutation. Any questions? Okay, so the other problem that we started yesterday was parade. I will remind you some of the constraints. So we had exactly 300,000 points, and we wanted to choose only 500 of them, and then we want to solve the TSP on these points that we have chosen. Okay, you can, it was not guaranteed, but you can assume that all of these points were random at the very beginning. But it's not all, it doesn't have to be that way, but it might be easy to think about. Any ideas or thoughts about this problem? Okay, I don't want to solve it because I really like this problem and I think you should spend some time thinking about it. But in general, if you remember it, we also talked about some theorem that in the sum permutation we can either find the increasing or decreasing subsequence of length, square root of the length of this initial permutation. So we want to do something similar. So we can, like this works in 2D as well. So you can think when we have like some number of points, then we can probably find something that has increasing x or increasing y, or decreasing x or decreasing y. So now we have some monotonic sequence, or like some points that are monotonic in some way. So now the only question remains is, can we solve TSP easier in this version of the problem? So we are choosing some monotonic sequence, and now the question remains how to solve the traveling salesman problem in this case. Is that more or less clear? Okay, please try to think about it. I really like this problem. I think it's like very nice. So you have a lot of hints already. So I think the next step is basically like coming up with the solution and maybe implementing it and checking that it works. Someone asked me yesterday how we judge this problem. Like, what is the checker for this problem? Because it's something that doesn't look very easy. So what we did during this competition, the checker had like a lot more resources. So we ran the checker on 8 CPUs with like 1 minute timeout or something like that. And then we had some heuristics solving TSP, like something that we are hoping that given enough time will give us something very close to the optimum solution. And it worked, like no one was able to pass this problem, but we are still like not sure like if it 100% will work. But we, during the competition it worked, so we are very certain that it will work right now as well. Okay? Awesome. So let's talk about the contest from yesterday. I don't want to talk about all of the problems because I think majority of you solved at least half of the problems. But I might want to talk about some of the latest ones. So I want to talk about H, I, and J. Does someone want to talk about any other ones? Okay, if you haven't solved, for example, like some of the easier problems, like easier in my personal opinion, just reach out to me or maybe talk with your colleagues that solve this problem. Like, I don't want you to be left like in the woods with this problem. But I also don't want to spend a lot of time on this contest because it wasn't that important. And as I said at the very beginning, I really encourage you, if you want to try to talk about these problems yourself, it will be very welcome. If you feel that you want to talk about some of these problems, it would be appreciated. Okay, let's talk about them. Which one do we want to talk about first? Let's talk about J first. Let me open this. Give me 1 second. Okay, in J, the problem statement was that we had some group of people, and we had a lot of these people. So something like this, and we said that in this group of people, some pairs maybe don't like each other, and we are giving some numbers of these pairs that don't like each other, which is something smaller than 3n divided by 2. And there was also another constraint that was very important, that every person can be enemies with at most 3 other people. Okay, so that was the constraint that was very important. And we wanted to divide these people into some number of groups in a way that in each group there's each person can be enemies with at most 1 other person. Okay? So that was the problem statement. Is someone brave enough to talk about this problem? Sure, go ahead.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, if you can. And I can even give you a microphone. And I hope it works. I think it works.
Okay, so in the problem we have to separate all people into some number of groups, and it's always possible to do it in 2 groups. So in the problem we have to decide if it's 1 or 2, and in case it's 2, to give the separation in groups. So the idea I had to do this is to first separate the people into 2 arbitrary groups, and then incrementally, if you find an unhappy person which has more than 2 enemies, I think it was, in the same group, you just move it to the other group. You do that until there are no unhappy people. And you can prove that that always ends in a valid separation. And that's because, like, imagine you have an unhappy person, right? So it has to have other 2 unhappy people here in this group. Other 2 enemies in this group. And it could have an enemy in this group, right? So when you move it to the other group, the number of conflicts, which are pairs of enemies in the same group, goes from 2 to 1. So the number of conflicts decreases. So this process always ends, and it can be implemented linearly by having, for example, a set of potential candidates of unhappy people, and each time you move one person, all its neighbors go into the potential set of candidates. And yeah, you just process it in whatever order until there are no more candidates. Okay, so that's the algorithm to separate it into two groups, and to check if it's possible to do it in one group, it's just check that the degrees are at most 1. So yeah, that's the solution. I don't know, understood it?
Any questions?
You move the unhappy, right? You move the unhappy one, right?
Yes, if there's an unhappy person, that has 2 neighbors in the same group, you move it to the other group.
So in general, you can think like how many unhappy edges we have in each of the groups. And every time if we are moving someone who is already unhappy in the group, we decrease the number of edges of at least 2, because it has to have at least 2 enemies, and we increase it by at most 1. So then the number of unhappy edges in total decreases by 1 with each iteration. It has to go to 0 at some point. So. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, H or I? Let's do I. I think I was slightly easier to explain. Any volunteers? Sure, go ahead. I can talk about the flow. Oh, okay.
Yes, please.
You don't want to?
I can explain. Sure.
So we are given a 3-player game, and in this game there's some stages, natural number, and the 3 players take turns. The move they can do is either add 1 to the number, or they can divide the number by one of its prime factors. So in this case, you can do divide by 2, get 7, or divide by 7, get 2, right? As the players take turns, their score is the when the game ends. The game ends when the number reaches 1. Okay, and the score of each player for that game is the least number they modify the number into, right? So let's say we're at 14, player divided by 7 gets a 2, and then in the next turn, the other player divided by 2 gets 1, game ends here. The player that divided the 14, their score is 2, right? So 3 players play optimally, by which we mean they minimize their score at the end of the game. And there's more than one way to minimize their score. They always choose like greedily. So for instance, here this player gets the same score, whether it's 6, 7, or 2, they will always take 2, that's smaller. So we just have to tally up the scores after a bunch of rounds of this. Well, the way we can do this is really simple. We just simulate this process. We do DP, we do recursion, which is really, since n is like 10 to the 4, we can just simulate this. We can factorize all the numbers of the 10 to the 4 using a sieve or something like that. And just do DP, really. It's really direct. What might be interesting is that, well, as you can see, the state can go up and down. So we might need to prove that there's no cycles in the recursion. And the way we can prove that is that, well, when we go down, we always divide by at least 2. So if there were a cycle, let's say we start 14, and we add 1, add 1, add 1, add 1, and at some point we divide by 2, and then we go up, 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 right? So if this is some number x, this is going to be at least 2x or more, and there must be a prime number between them. And of course, when there's a prime number, the player can just divide a prime number, get to 1, and they win the game. So it's guaranteed that when this happens, the game will always end. And those are no cycles.
Is it like a theorem or something that proves that there's always a prime number between?
It is a hypothesis that is not proven to this day, and I think it's called Chebyshev hypothesis or something like that. It is.
No,
It
this is a theorem.
It is a theorem.
Don't know the name.
Bertrand.
Okay.
So you just do regression, you brute force it and memorize it.
Okay, so Bertrand proposed this theorem, and then Chebyshev proved it, and it is called, like on Wikipedia, is either Bertrand postulate or Chebyshev theorem. I didn't know it was proven, so. Awesome. Any questions?
So I thought about this problem, and is it possible for two different actions with the player, the same value, different players should give different values to the other two? In which case it wouldn't be clear which option the player would choose.
Yes. So the player only optimizes their score, and if they have different options, they always choose the one that in the next step gives them the smallest number. So they don't try to make the other players work. They only optimize their score and they minimize the number in the next turn. So if you can divide by 7 and you can divide by 2, you always divide by 7. So that gives you a smaller number.
Was this written in the text?
Yes.
It was, I can even read it. Whenever the player can choose different numbers that will result in the same score, the player will choose the lowest of these numbers. So it was in the statement. I have to say, like, I find some of these statements very confusing, and I hope I'm not the only one, but I just gave them without an explanation. And for the future, if you have any questions about the statements, there's no easy way on Katis to ask questions, but you can basically try to find me. I usually am here somewhere, and maybe I can answer some of these questions. In most cases, I would say the answer is in the statement or something like that, but maybe in some cases it might be a question that I can answer and maybe share it with others as well. I can also say that maybe there will be some prizes at the end if someone will be like very, like if someone will talk about a lot of problems like during this editorial session. So I can say it right now. I hope I can keep this promise. Okay, the last one, H, private space. Any volunteers? Anyone else? Okay, in particular, I would like to know someone who implemented this nicely. There's one particular trick that I'm looking for. And probably if person implemented that, they should know. Anyone? Okay, I see one hand. I'm gonna say, I also hated this problem. Can you I mean, it should be fine, but it might be better with microphone.
Well,
I think
it doesn't work.
Sí, funciona.
Now, well, I implemented a backtracking, easy backtracking, and recursion. I had the row, the column, the number of each quantity of a group, and two special parameters to put off before. The number of non-zero in here, and the total number of people left. For clarity, I thought that each group was one person bigger. So a 3-person group, I counted the free space. And each row has one seat more. So we have 2 seats, 3 seats, until 30 seats.
yeah, that was exactly what I was looking for. Like, it makes the implementation way easier if you have this virtual person at the end. So don't have to worry that we'll put 2 groups at the like close together, and that makes like life a little bit easier.
So my idea was, first I checked that if non-zero is 0, return true, because I can put all the people, all the groups in the seats. Now, notice that the total number of seats is here for here take of 2 plus R. The number of rows take by 2 plus the number of rows. So, if T is bigger than this, which is I know it's this plus 1, over 2, return false. It is 1. So, then I will go to lim. It will mean between the size of C8 and the actual row less the outward column is 1, if I not remember wrong. So I check the C8 will link to 1. I use the make this one Sn E 1 and me, and I basically check to put a group of this size in this column of this row, if it's possible. But it will be always possible because I set a limit for that. So, well, I change and exchange this, and this, because they are 3 reference. After that, well, if the function returns true, I return true automatically. So, yeah, it will be update CA and theta P and arrow, right? And the rollback. Return true. And the last possibility is to go to the next row. Remove this one, C, E. And then we will check from 1 to 12 the number of rows, and if break with the number of rows in the column 0 and this is the original values, if true, I stop and print the value, and if never gets true, I think that it will work.
So in general, we are doing some recursion because the level was small. We just need to carefully make sure that we are keeping the people at the nodes that we want. So we are basically going from the largest group always. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I try all the groups that fit.
Sure. Yeah. And there's nothing much to add to this program because that's painful problem to implement. Any questions? I think there's a little bit nicer way to I don't like the update rollback and the that, but rollback tracking as well. Yeah, no backtracking at all. I want to see that.
It's really small, so you can use a randomized approach. So like randomized field random and
Ooh, I really want to do that.
that sounds interesting.
Okay, any questions about this solution? If you haven't thought about this delete by adding the virtual person at the end of each row and each group, I think it's very helpful and it's something that is used quite often. And it also helps a lot with the implementation. Like, without it, this would be like 3 or 4 times larger than that in terms of lines of code. So, yeah, that's the thing. Okay, but I
didn't expect this.
kind of did. Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to talk about your randomized solution? So we are just putting groups randomly.
For the group,
Okay.
and you place in grid, and we know there's some permutation where it's optimal.
Okay, but if you have some field planning, what is your score? Like the number of people that
You can do like number of rows, for instance, you can optimize number of rows.
okay.
That's kind of a bit of a hacky part. You can just pick something good, try a few different things.
Okay. And how you change between states?
It's fun. Just
Random groups?
yeah.
Okay. And this worked like right away? You didn't have to like...
I mean, my teammate explained it to me, and he showed me the code. I didn't come up with it. So
Okay. Okay. Who's your teammate? Okay. Okay, I like this solution. I haven't thought about it at all. Okay, maybe I will talk about it. Do we have time? Okay, we don't have that much time. If we'll have some time at the end, maybe I can talk a little bit about like simulated annealing and hill climbing and why is it so awesome. But it doesn't work in most cases. I just want to say that at the very beginning. Yeah, like it was like very nice for the problem that the limits were quite low, so probably you can explore all of the space. So that is nice. But usually it is very difficult for the normal IPC contest to use such approach.
Yeah, like because it's n greater than 50, no way.
Okay, yeah, as I said, if we have some time at the end, we'll talk about the solution. Maybe I will talk about, like, in general, local searches, because it is fun, but not that useful. Okay, any other questions about the problem set? If not, then we can start the normal lecture. And I guess it was we will be talking about today. Hint, there was foreshadowing already. So, when I look at the survey, this is the thing that surprisingly majority of you said that they don't have idea how it works. So this is requested by you, and I hope you will enjoy it. So we had this problem during the competition that was about a game for 3 players, but it wasn't really a problem about the games. It was basically some dynamic programming, and 3 players weren't even that important. But in general, we'll be talking today about game theory, which is mostly talking about some class of games that we can describe and we are mostly happy with them. And there are some restrictions or different subclasses of this game that we'll talk about. So I will talk first about some of the restrictions. Probably put it here, because I want to look at that. So the first of all, we will consider games that have some states. So we will have some number of states that are visible and some ways to move between these states. It doesn't sound like, okay, we have to introduce some kind of game. So probably tic-tac-toe is a very good game. So the initial state is basically an empty board. And then each player, I don't know which one starts first, but maybe this guy, can choose to put his mark in one of these squares. So then the other state that we can reach is either he'll put his mark here, or here, or here, and so on and so on. Okay? And then the turn is for the other player, and then they can put their mark in their space. So then we'll have here X, maybe all here. Something like this, and something like this. Okay, and each of these nodes is something that we will call a state, and between the states there are transitions or edges, but we'll probably use them both. So some of these positions, some of these states, we'll call terminal states. So this is where the game ends, and the game can end in different ways. Either we say that the first player or the X player wins, so terminal states, X wins, O wins, or there's a draw, in most cases. Okay, so every time we cannot do anything, so we don't have any transitions to other states, then we are saying that we are in the terminal position. Okay? So the tic-tac-toe is basically the whole board is zero. And this game is happens. Okay? What else do we need? So this is more or less everything. During this class we'll mostly think about 2-player games. So we'll have player 1 and player 2. It is fairly rare to think about games for more players. But it happens from time to time. Like I have seen some problems that have 3 players, but it's quite difficult to say. For example, do we think that they care about themselves? Do they think about like screwing other people or something like that? It is getting slightly difficult, so we need to think about it. So it doesn't happen that often. And during this class, we will mostly think about 2 players only. Okay? Usually in the game theory, the game is won by the person that made the last move. So it is not the case in tic-tac-toe, because like there's another win condition. But in most of the games that we will talk about, we will call the game normal, if the player that made the last move wins. Okay? So, for example, tennis is such a game, I would say. Not really, but maybe. So the person who wins the last ball wins the whole match. But not the greatest example, but we'll talk about some other examples in a moment. There are some other subclass of games that are called misery games, I think from French. So this is the opposite. So the person that cannot make a move wins. So if you are in the terminal position, the person that their move will be next, they win. But it's also like very rare case for such games. And we'll talk about some examples, but also like not that much. So usually you have two-player games. Last person that moves wins. Okay? Any questions so far? So these are optional, but we'll use them. And there's also something that is not very optional, but there are different options with it. We can say that in some games, both players have the same set of moves. So in tic-tac-toe, it's not usually the case because each person has different kind of moves. Like they cannot play X here, you change everything. But for example, in the game of NIM, that we'll talk about in a moment, both players have the same set of moves. They can do exactly the same. Doesn't matter who can move in this moment. So some of the games we call neutrals. Same move set for both players. And some other games are partial. They have different movesets for different players. So can you think about some of the examples of the partial and neutral games? When you think about it for a moment, most of them are partial, but maybe you can think about some examples. Like card game, board game.
Chess is partial.
Chess is partial because basically every player has its own set of chess pieces that they can move, and the other player cannot move them. So they are definitely partial.
Blackjack is neutral.
Which one?
Blackjack.
Blackjack. It's hard to say because they have your own set of cards. But I would say it's neutral. Like from the beginning, like the original state, you don't have anything, and then you basically have the same set of moves. So it's like in the gray zone, but probably maybe on this side small.
Problem I.
Did you say it again?
Problem I from yesterday.
Problem I. Technically, yes. Any other ideas? Okay, most of the card games also falls here. Like basically, I'm saying basically with Roman, I don't know why. When we play a card game, usually we have a hand, and our set of moves depends on our hand. So this is the exact move that we can make, and no other players can make the same set of moves. Like it's not always the case. There are some card games that are neutral, but most of them are still partial. Like for example, bridge, or I don't know why I cannot think of another card game. Which one?
Uno. Like, it depends on your card if you can play or not.
I haven't played this game, I don't know about it.
Okay, you have to match the color of or the number. Like, it depends on the card.
Like Uno? Okay. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about the terminal position. So we can say some other stuff. So when we determine that the last person that moves wins, and we'll talk about this particular space, then every terminal position, the position that ends, is a winning position. Okay? So now we introduce something called winning and losing position. And here's a small note. We assume here that both players play optimal. So this is the condition that is quite often visible in the problem statements, that we assume that both of the players know everything about the game and they both play optimally. Because it makes all of the analysis way easier if you can assume that. It's not always the case. So for example, you can play against some custom judge that is not always optimal and can make some mistakes that you can use. But in most cases, when we analyze something in game theory, we can say that both players play optimally, and then based on that, we can make some assumptions. Okay? So let's talk about winning and losing positions. When a position is a winning position? So winning position or winning state is when every possible move that we can, like, okay, if there is a way to make our opponent to be in the losing position. Okay? So we are in control right now. So if we can make sure that our opponent will be in the losing position, so the losing position means that they will lose no matter what they do, that means that we are in the winning position. Because we can control for which of these arrows will go to. And even some of these arrows can go to the winning position for our opponent, then we are still winning because we can choose this arrow. Okay? And maybe just to clarify, this is our move, and this is their move. Okay? And now let's think what does it mean to be in the losing position. So when we are always destined to lose.
All transitions go to the winning position.
Yes, if we basically don't have any choice. If it doesn't matter what move we did, every single outcome will be that our opponent will be winning. Okay? So let's think about the terminal position. Is it winning or losing?
Yeah.
Yes. But if we choose the normal rules, then is it losing or winning?
Losing.
Losing. Because the person that will end up here, the last move that was made by the player that wins the game. So he'll be in the winning position. Okay, this is the last move. So generally we have two rules. Position is a winning position if there is a transition to the losing position. And position is a losing condition if all of the positions that we can reach from this positions are winning positions. Okay? So you have to remember that maybe I should use some colors. That W is if we have at least one L. And L is always when everything below us is a W. So here exists L, and here is all a W. So now when we have this, so technically even we don't need this, because we know that all of the, like, if we think about quantifiers here, here's the global quantifier, and if we don't have any positions below us, then this is true, because everything is a winning condition. It cannot be there exists L, because there are no L's. So it has to be losing condition. So this is optional, But it's easy to remember that there are three conditions that we can use. Okay? So now let's think about it in some simple exercise. So I will give you a very simple game. Just give me a moment, I want to use the example that I have. Okay, this is the game. The game is that we have, I don't know, some kind of, like there's a player that we can move using the arrows. And there are two players, so the first one is the one moving first, then the other one, then first one, and the other one again. And we want to reach the final cell here. And the person that makes the last move wins. And I want you to spend some time and try to determine what is the winning position and what is the losing position in this game. Okay? So I'll give you like a minute. Try to write it down or maybe like copy the picture and then try to determine which of these positions are winning positions, and which of these positions are losing positions. So we start from here. And then we want to go here. And if you think about it, that we can look at these three faces and try to determine their positions there. Okay. Are we ready, or do you still need more time? Okay, I think we are mostly ready. So how we can do such calculations? So we start from the bottom. I think that is not very surprising. So we know that the final position is winning or losing. Losing. We already said it. So now we have to go up. Where do we want to go? Probably here. Now we can go in many places, but what we are actually doing, we are running DFS on the inverse graph. So we have BFS or BFS? BFS. Because we want to find places that don't have any unanswered states below them. So this one doesn't have any unanswered states, so this one will be losing, because all under it, there's just one, is a W, so we can say that this one will be losing. So now which one opens? This one opens. This one will be winning, because we have all else below it. This one? Winning, because we can force people to go to the losing position. Now it probably doesn't matter. Let's say this one.
Winning.
This is winning because there's a L below it. This one?
Winning.
This one?
Losing.
Losing because we have two W's. This one? Losing. This one?
Winning.
We have two L's, but we just need one. So this one will be winning. Okay? So we made it. And now let's think what is the optimal strategy. So we are, let's say we are in the winning position. So what we should do? We should move to the losing position because we want our opponents to lose. So our first move is go here. Let's put it a con here. So now the opponent can go either here or here. So let's say we are here. So what is our move? We go to L. So we are here. Then our opponent doesn't have any options, so we are going here. And then we are going here. So we made the last move and we won. Okay? Is it clear how winning and losing position was? And is it clear what is the optimal strategy for this graph? Okay? Is it clear how to implement this? So if I give you a graph, or a tree exactly, and I will ask you to output what position is the winning position, what position is the losing position, do you know how to do it? How? Yeah, basically we run the BFS on the inverted tree. So we start from position that doesn't have any outgoing edges, so from something like this. We mark all of them as L, and then we are putting everything that is above us and doesn't have any other outgoing edges. So for example, in this case, we knew that we had one outgoing edge, but we already marked it. We know what is the position, like what is the state of this position. So we can say that we have zero unknown position. So we should be able to determine the state of this position as well. And we keep these states in some queue or some other thing that we can easily maintain.
Topological order. So we can
Yes.
start from the top with the DFS.
We can, but I will talk in a moment why we shouldn't. And maybe even talk about it right now. So what happens if this is not a tree and it has some cycles?
You mean directed cycle?
So let's say something like this. This is our game state, a game graph. Okay, but first, can we determine for all of the states which are losing states and which are winning states?
Yes.
Yes, I think. This is losing state. This is winning state. Because we can say that there's existing L. This will be L, because we always have to go to W. This will be W, so this will be L as well. Can you think about an example when we cannot do that? Yeah, odd cycle is our enemy. So in this case, this is losing. This is winning.
The other one. No, that's winning.
But this is winning, that's for sure.
That's losing.
For this one,
That's losing.
And now we move to winning state.
And maybe if you have another.
What about a cycle without any terminal states?
That's another. No, like if we are in this position, we can always win because we can make the last move. When we are here,
But if you have another non-activity,
uh, I can do this, and this will be losing. This will be winning. So here it is not losing because I don't know yet, because this might not be it. And I cannot say anything here. Because I can only say that this is winning if I have at least one losing, or if all of them are winning. But I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one because I don't know about this one, and so on and so on. So this is unknown. So in general, in some cases, we can say something about the cycles, but in the general case, it is usually not sure. And in general, as someone already said, if we don't have any terminal positions, then the game basically doesn't end, so we cannot say anything.
BFS like doing BFS in the transport without
in this case,
no, in the bad case, we don't determine
it also
it doesn't help with
yeah, but it's like it won't help. But like in some cases, probably BFS will can you do this with BFS? I'm not sure actually.
yeah, no, because you can somehow choose the right edge of
Yeah. So this is why I'm usually saying that if you do such things, you should do BFS. But in some cases, when you have a tree, probably it will work with BFS. But just to be safe, try to use BFS. Okay. Any questions?
Because of the cycle, would you consider it a law? Like, you can never force the guy to.
Yeah, so it's hard to say. It depends mostly on the problem setter. If usually they say after 10 million moves, then there's a draw if we cannot determine the winner or something like that. But in normal game theory, I think there's no consensus what we say about it. We say that this game doesn't end. I think that's the thing we can say. But it is not a draw technically. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, let's have a break maybe. Oh wait, it's just 1 hour. Okay, maybe not have a break. But I want to do this exercise, but let's consider this for 3 players. Okay? So now it is getting difficult because we have to think what is the winning-losing condition here, and we have to say what is the player's goal, like their own victory, or not making other player win, or something like that. So let's say that we are playing in 3 players. We are the player 1, and the goal of player 2 or 3 is to make sure that you are losing, that you lose. Okay? Probably there are some things wrong with it, but this is the thing that I want to go with. Okay, so we are player 1, we want to win, and other players want us to lose. How does it change the game? So we are still thinking about this example, this here, but now we have 3 players. So I will say at the very beginning, this is an exercise to show you that it gets more difficult with more players.
Sería una
Okay, so what can you say about it?
You can model it to a two-player game, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what I was aiming for. Generally, if you have three players with the simplifications that I made, we can say that we have one player that is making one move, and the other player that is making two moves at the same time. Okay, so how does it change the states in this game?
State might be losing for one and winning for another.
Okay, but let's start from the bottom. It is losing for both. This one.
Winning for us.
And for them. This one. Okay, why is that? So if we are L, then we basically our only move is to go to the W. But if we are the second player, we want to make us lose, and we are making these two moves to go there. I'm not certain if only talking about two states is proper, but let's see how it goes. Okay, here.
The W state.
I cannot hear you. I'm sorry.
The right position, the W/W position.
So this is we, and this is them.
Yes, yes. But in the WW state, you know the node on the right, will it be a WL? If the second player is in that position, they will have to make two moves.
I thought about it right now. I think like two is not enough. We should have three variables still.
No, but they can do, if they reach the terminal state, they can do one move, because if either of them win, it's okay.
Technically, yes, but can we still propagate it up?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure about it, but I can believe you that it might work, but we'll see. Like, I agree that this might be still just one W, and it doesn't matter who wins, because like, either the second or the third player wins. It might be losing for the third player, but as I said at the very beginning, they only care that we lose.
Yes, but if the second, the enemy player is in that position, they will have to make two moves. In the first move, they would move to the terminal position, and in the second move, they would lose.
No.
No, as I said, like they only care that we are losing. Like, if they lose, it's like if one of them loses, it's not important to them. Like, I know this is it is a simplification. Like, games on three players are difficult, so I made a simplification that they only care that we lose. Like, it's not important for them which one of them wins. They only want to make sure that we lose.
speaking of the lose, doesn't the first player win?
No, there's only one winner, the one that makes the final move.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, let me try. I know it's complicated. Like, this is the goal of this exercise is to make sure that we are on the same page. If I win, then they both lose, and I'm happy, and they're not happy. If I lose, and either of them wins, then I'm unhappy, but they are both happy because they wish us not well. And this is the similar case if I switch these two. Okay? So this is the assumption that we made, and this is like the simplest assumption that we can make for three-player games. Okay? If I change anything about it, like everything can go out of the window, like nothing will work. So I just wanted to make it as easy as possible. Okay, let's try to finish this just to make sure that we understand. So now we can go here. We are at winning because we can go to losing, and where they go? Ah, because they can go here. I'm sorry. Here?
It's the same.
They can go here. Here, it's winning for us and losing for them.
No, it's winning for them. They can
Oh, okay, because they can make two moves. Yeah.
It's losing for us, winning for us.
The last stage is you lose because the next player will win, right?
Here, okay, we are saying that the player that makes the last move wins.
So there is a lose stage because the next player will win, right?
No. This is the losing state because we didn't make the last move, so the other player won.
I mean, when you propagate, when you calculate the first of the 2 bits, you have to look at the second bit of your child, right? Because that's what
yes.
the other player. So in that case, that.
Yeah,
No.
This is probably wrong. Like the
Lose win, right?
lose win.
yes. How about this one? This is win-win.
No, it's lose.
Yes. This is lose-win. This is lose-win. This is I think it's lose-win.
How do they win this?
They win because they go like right and then
They can go there.
right and down. And they go.
Is this okay or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do they win?
So they can go
Right.
there.
No,
First player.
No.
right down.
First right.
Oh, sorry, here. And this will be lose and win. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this exercise. I hope you enjoyed how painful it was. Yeah, I just wanted to stress that it is getting difficult with more players, and fortunately we don't have to do it that often, but there's a way to do it as well. But still, like, we needed to make a lot of simplifications for it to make sense. Okay, let's have a break here. After the break, we'll talk about mean games, and we'll talk about the Sprague-Grundy theorem, and we'll see how everything is connected in magic form. Let's have a break for maybe let's start at 10:05. Not 5:07. Only about the Okay, the second part of the lecture, as I promised, we'll be talking about the Lagrange theorem and its applications. But we have to start with NIM, because everything starts with NIM. Let me just try to put things that are very important in the first part of the lecture. So we had three conditions. The first condition was that the terminal positions are losing positions. The second one, a position is winning if there exists a transition to a losing position. So that was the thing, that if we have winning position, we need to have at least one losing position. And the third one, a position is losing if all positions will be positions that we can reach are winning. So this was example when we have L, we have all W's below us. So the NIM game that you probably already know about, but just to make everything that we should cover in this lecture. The NIM game is played in a bunch of stacks of stones, piles of stones, I think. So for example, we have 3, 2, 4, 2, 4, or something like that. And the rules of the game are as follows. One player can choose any number of stones, but from just one pile. So for example, I can choose one stone from this pile, I can choose all of the stones from this pile, and so on and so on. And the player who makes the last move wins, as usual. Okay? This is the game. It's like probably very well known. And the solution for this game is also very well known. So this is something when we introduce NIM bells or the NIM sums. We are saying that the position is winning if and only if, so let's call the number in each file A1, A2, and so on. If the XOR of these numbers is equal to, is not equal to 0. And similarly, position is losing if and only if this sum is equal to 0. Okay? Just maybe quick, I hope everyone knows what is XOR, which is basically the exclusive OR on binary numbers, so I don't want to talk about it, but if you don't know, just search for XOR. In C++, it is this symbol. Cadet, I think it's called, I don't know. Shift plus 6, I would say. Okay, so I want to go a little bit and try to prove what I just said. Like if we take if we solve all of the numbers of stones in each pile, then if we get 0, then we are in the losing position, and if we are not 0, we are in the winning condition. Why I want to do that? Because we'll do exactly the same for the Sprague-Grundy theorem. We'll just see that this is exactly the same, but with a different constraints and different numbers. Okay? So how we can prove it is basically we look at these three conditions, and then we prove like each of these steps separately. Okay? So we want to show that first, terminal positions are losing position. What is the terminal position in the game of NIM? All piles are empty. So we want to make sure that losing position in our case is, let's call this whole expression A, large A, uppercase A. So we want to say that terminal position has A equal to 0. And it is easy because, as we said, all the piles are empty, so the XOR is also equal to 0. Okay, any questions? Okay, second thing. A position is winning. Maybe let's start with the third one. I think it might be slightly easier. A position is losing if all the positions that we can reach are winning. So we start, we want to show that if we are at A equal to 0, because we are losing, that no matter what we do, we'll end up at something that is winning. So this is losing. And we end up at something that is not equal to 0, so it is winning. Okay? So we start from something, from losing position, and now we have to think that all of the moves that we can make. So what happens if you make a move in the NIM game, with the NIM sum?
You change some number, so
We need to change something. We have to make some move. So one of these numbers will change. So for example, without loss of generality, I'll just say that I'll modify AI. Okay, so it will be AI minus D or something like that. So before this, I said that A1 XOR A2 XOR AN is equal to 0, because that was my assumption that my position is losing. And now I change one of these numbers, so I have A1. Somewhere here is AI minus D, and AN and AN. And I want to say that this is not equal to 0. So I'm basically, what I can do, I can
you can combine both.
I want to have this, that's the first thing. And then if this is equal to 0, so I can solve this whole expression with this expression. And it should be the same. So I will have AI, so AI minus D. That is, okay, what I did. I took this expression and then I solved with this one. So I have AI solved with AI, A2 solved with A2, and so on and so on. So I can basically remove all of them, because I know that for all numbers, A XOR A is equal to 0. Okay? So then I'm left with AI and AI minus D. Why is this not equal to 0? Because I can even say that this is if and only AI, so AB is equal to 0, if and only if A is equal to B. Because in this case, if they are not equal, there has to be at least one bit that differs between these two numbers. Okay? So I have proven that when I start from the losing position, all positions that I can end up with are winning positions. So I have proven the third point as well. How about the second one? The position is winning if there exists a transition to a losing position. So now I'm starting at some position that I claim is winning. So I am at winning position. And then I want to make sure that there exists a move that will put our opponent in the losing position. So A is equal to 0. Okay? So what I'm doing here is something similar to what I already did. So I have some AI XOR A2 XOR some AI XOR AN, which is equal to A, which is not equal to 0. This is my winning position. and I want to make sure that there exists a move that will put me this nim sum to 0. So I want to prove that there exists some pile I such that AI and some value D, so that AI minus D solved with the rest of the stuff, AI, A2, AN is equal to 0. How can I do this?
You take the most significant bit in A, and you find a number in the A sequence. I don't know how to differentiate between like the uppercase A and the lowercase A.
Uppercase is basically this whole thing.
No, but like when I speak, I don't know
Oh,
how
yeah,
to
okay.
refer to
Sure.
each one. Like you search for an AI that has this most significant bit in A, and there exists one because there is an odd number of them. So you take this number, you remove the most significant bit, and when you do that, you can choose any of the remaining bits, right?
Yes.
Of how the construction works.
Okay, so let me try to say it again. So in A, there's some ones and zeros, but what we basically care about, we want to make sure that the most significant bit is zeros. We know that there exists some AI that has the significant bit on, so there's a 1 somewhere here. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that we are flipping this bit to 0, because at the end we want to make sure that everything here is 0. Okay? So our only goal is to prove that A solved with AI is less than AI. Yeah, I think that's it. So we need to make sure that there exists some element I that after solving with the whole thing, the whole nim sum, will be lower than the original AI. So we can remove at least at most AI. Okay, we want to remove from the start this pile, but we want to make sure that we are removing. We have enough stones to remove from this pile. Okay, was it clear? Well, maybe let me say it once again. So we want to choose some pile, and we want to choose this pile in a way that after we remove some stones in this pile, so this is the number of items that we are taking from AI, such that we want this to make AI equal to 0. Okay, so it has to be lower than AI, because it has to be lower than the number of stones in this pile that we are removing from. Okay? This is not very nice to prove. It is, okay, I will just talk about it for a second. So generally we just want to look at these numbers and make sure that we can always find the second most significant bit, and it should work. Maybe there's a better way to do it, but I cannot think of it right now, so I'll probably just leave it. Maybe you have some other ideas, but
If you remove the most significant bit in range, of course you're going to want that to be 0. But when you do that, you can make every number between 0 and 2 to be n minus 1, and the most significant bit, because all of those numbers are lower than the most significant bit.
So you're saying I'm flipping this to 0,
Yeah.
and then you say that there exists, I can do everything that is lower than that.
Yeah.
You can choose whatever you need.
Yes, because I have 1, so I can do whatever I want. Okay, that works. Who understood what was just said? Okay, that's a lot of hands, but not all of you. Okay, let me try to say it again. So if we have selected some we are selecting some pile that has 1 at the same place as the most significant one in A, the uppercase A. So when we do that, we want to make sure that we can also flip the bits in the rest of the A. And then the way we can do that is basically, because we have at least, let's say that this is p bit, so we can flip at least 2 to the power of p minus 1, because this AI is at least to the power of p. So we can choose 2 to the power of p minus 1 stones to flip the rest of the bits. Okay? And in the end, we basically shows that if we choose exactly this number of stones to flip all of the numbers to 0, then we go to the position that is losing, because the whole mean sum will be equal to 0. Who understood it? Raise your hand. Who has some questions? Okay, I will leave this fact for now. Maybe if I think about something better, then I will come back to this. But in general, what we need to, we have to do some work to prove that there's a way to go from the winning condition to a losing condition. And basically this is selecting some pile that has at least the number of stones that we have on the most significant bit of A, the name stone of A, uppercase A. Okay? So let's say that we have proven this one, and this is generally the proof that the mean sums work. Okay, let's do now some more fancy stuff. Maybe before that, how does this game change when we, mean game is like very vanilla basic game, but maybe there are some problems that are using this game that are significantly more difficult than that. So we'll call, let's have a game with potatoes instead of stones. So I have some number of steps in my staircase, and then I have some potatoes on some of these steps. And in one move, what I can do, I can take some number of potatoes and kick them to the lower step. So for example, I'm taking one potato from this one, I can put it here, I can take all of the potatoes from this step, and I can move them here, and then so on and so on. Okay? So this is the potato game. The question is right now, what is the winning position in the potato game, and how we can do it quickly? How we can determine if the position is winning. The lower. We always kick potatoes down. Do you know the solution? Did you know this problem? Did you know this problem before? Did you know this problem before? Okay, I still want to give other people some time, but I have another version, but maybe I can talk about it now. Okay, maybe, can you raise your hand if you think you know the answer? Maybe all of you know, and I should move on. Okay, I will wait a little bit more.
Put down one potato.
As many as you want, but from this step.
One step.
No, like one step only, but as many potatoes as you want from the previous step. Okay, and if you already know this game, or like know the solution, consider this if the game is miserere, like if the player that doesn't have a move is the winner. It is significantly different. So, option. Miserere.
Sí, la cosa en segundo tengo más importante. La idea de la no, no es
Okay, any ideas? Maybe you can say if you. Yeah.
This is equivalent to a new problem.
But how?
If you think each potato as a name field,
Okay.
the size place in the data. For example, here you have 3 names of one side, 5 of two sides, 3 of three sides, and so on.
Okay, that's what. But why is that? Why is that? Okay.
Because I know the new problem, so a new problem.
Okay. So generally that is true. Okay, I have a different solution, but we are saying that we have one nim pile of 3 stones, 2 nim piles of 5 stones, 3 nim piles of 3 stones, and something like that. And when we are moving something down, we are basically saying that we are decreasing the number of piles, but what we are actually doing is like putting them down. So basically the number of steps that we need to move, okay. This, if we put potato on the lowest step, that means that we are removing it from the one of these piles. So if this was like in 3 different piles, and we move it down, then it is moving to the lower pile. Okay? The problem is that we need to a little bit worry what will happen because we are technically increasing the number of potatoes in this this pile. So why it is not important? Because if you are moving one potato from here, then this pile becomes a little bit larger. So my question is, why is that not important? Because of what? Okay, I have, I know a different argument, but it's using a different version to move it to mean problem. It is not using like many piles, it is using just even like not all of these piles. I'm not, I think it will work in the end, but I don't see how to prove it right now. Any other ideas? It's not that complicated, I can say that. We need to find a way to make sure that this is like normal mean game. But how? Say it again, I'm so sorry.
The amount of steps are the less steps doesn't matter.
Yes.
And like 2 steps up, they also don't matter because you can just repeat
Yes.
movement the other player did. And what we are left is the odd steps, and moving it down to a even step is basically erasing the potatoes from existence because we already agreed that the even step.
Yes, exactly. So what we basically need to care about is only the odd steps. Because if someone is moving from the odd step to the even step, what we can do is we can mirror the step. So if we only care about the odd number of steps and then we run our NIM game on only these steps, then we can just check the NIM sum on the odd steps. Okay? So why is that equivalent to what you said? Because if we have like the one number of these steps, or like one pile of this, 2 piles of this, and 3 piles of this, the NIM sum is also exactly the same. Because if we take A1, sort A2, sort A2, sort A3, sort A3, sort A3, and so on, we can remove this and this, and wait, I made something wrong. We can remove this, and then we are left with only the odd number of steps. So that's why I said that it probably is right, but I cannot prove it like without talking about this. And a similar case in some of the games when, for example, we allow the second player to add some stones on the pile. It is not important at all. As long as the game ends in some point, so for example, we'll stick the number of steps that they, the number of moves when they can add some stones. We can, like, if they add some stones, we remove the same number of stones, and then we are going back to the same position, so nothing changes. And this is quite common trick to know about NIM games. How about this? If the game is opposite, if the last player that makes the move is the loser. I will leave this as an exercise. It's a nice thing to think about. So maybe if someone thinks about a decent idea, then we can chat about it. Okay, so let's go to the meat of this lecture, which is the Sprague-Grundy theorem. So before that, we make, like, every state was either a winning state or the losing state. So everything was binary. But there were 2 famous scientists that also wanted to add some more information to the states. So this is what the Sprague-Grundy theorem is about. So they introduced some other things that are fairly similar to what we already discussed. So we'll say that the position has value 0 if it is a terminal position. And for all other positions, the value of this position will be equal to the max of all of the possible positions. What is a max? Max is the minimum excluded. So this is the minimal integer that does not exist in this set. So for example, max from 0, 1, 3, 4 will be equal to 2, because 2 doesn't exist here. Max from an empty set is equal to 0, and max from 0, 0, 1, 1, 2 is equal to 3. Okay? So we are taking this definition and then we try to add the value to the positions instead of saying just if this is a winning or losing position. And what will happen? So we said that the terminal position has max equal to 0. It is even, I don't even have to say that. Technically max from position that doesn't have anything is equal to 0, but I just wanted to make sure that we are on the same page. So this is, let me put it here. So this has max equal to 0. What about, so now we will try to prove that if max is equal to 0, that this is a losing position. And vice versa. Okay. So when position is losing, if all of the positions that we can reach are winning. So what does it mean? If we start, like we want to count the max from positions that are winning. Positions that are winning have max greater than 0. Okay, so we are looking for something of max that has larger than 0, larger than 0, larger than 0. So the max of all of the stuff will be equal to 0. Because 0 is the minimum that is not in the set. So this is technically correct. And the other one, the position is winning if there exists a transition to a losing position. So now we are saying that we want to count max from something that has a losing position, but losing position is 0. So we know that max of this will be greater than 0. Okay? So this will be a winning position because that's what we wanted to prove. So we see that if we introduce these Sprague-Randy values to the positions, we can say that position is winning if it is larger than 0, and it's losing if it is equal to 0. So why did we even complicate this? Because it was already a little bit tricky, but now it's more complicated. Because there's a very famous theorem that is using this fact. And the theorem, I want to make sure that I'm using the same thing here. One moment. Maybe any questions about this so far, just before I continue? So we know how we introduce this value, we know how to calculate these values. Awesome. So theorem is like this. Let's consider n independent games. So it is, okay, you can imagine that each game is a separate table when we play this game. So when we want to make a move in this complex game of many games, we are choosing a table when we want to go and make a move. Okay? So our move is choosing the table and then making a move on this table. So for example, in one of the table will play checkers and in the other table will play chess. We are choosing if in this turn we want to go to the table with checkers and make a move, or if you want to go to the table with chess and make a move there. But we can only make one move on one table. So this is how I talk about independent, and this is also how I consider a move. So this is just one move in one game. And also we use the same thing as always, so the person without a move loses. Then if xi, x2, xn are Sprague-Randy values for these games. So for each of this table, we can calculate the Sprague-Randy value. We already know how to do it. Just we go to each table, calculate it here. This is x1, this is x2 for this table, and so on and so on. Then we say that maybe I will put it that way. If xi, then the position of the whole game is winning, if and only if x1, XOR x2, XOR x3, XOR xn is greater than 0. Okay? So It is quite, like, okay, it is heavy, but I'm saying that if we can compute struct random values for each separate table, and then we sort them all together, then we can say if the position is winning in the whole game, like all of the games at once. Not, that was like, in this grand total game, like when we, like the last person making the move on the last game is the winner. An example. You already seen an example. An example is just a mean game. Mean game is basically a set of n games. Each pile is a separate table. And what is the Sprague-Landy value for each of these piles? So let's go back to NIM. We had some piles here. So this is 4, this is 6, this is 9. So what, like right now we think this about 3 different games. And what we are doing, we are choosing a pile when we want to make a move, and then we are making a move in this pile. So what is the Sprague-Landy value of all of these games? Number of stones. Why is that? Yeah, because when we think about this, what we can do, we can go to any position that we already know about. Like we can choose any number of stones, and then we can go there. So we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And this is also the max value, because the max of the final position, of the terminal position is equal to 0. Then the max of this will be equal to max from 0, which is equal to 1. This will be equal to the max of 1 and 0, which is 2. This will be equal to max of 2, 1, 0, which is 3, and so on and so on. So in the game of NIM, the max is basically the number of stones. Okay? So that was the example. Any questions so far? So we already shown that we can take the XOR of this Sprague-Landy values, and then we can determine if the game is winning by basically comparing this value to 0. So how we can prove this whole theorem? We go back here and do the exact same thing. So we are starting by saying that the terminal positions are losing positions. It is the case because everything will be 0, so the XOR will be equal to 0. Let's do first one again. So position is losing if all of the positions that we can reach are winning. It is the similar things, but we need to think about the Sprague-Landy numbers instead of XOR and maxes. So there exists some Sprague-Landy value that we can go and make sure that the max will be equal to, like the value, the XOR will be equal to 0. And then the second condition is the same. So it's like the same proof, but like with a little bit more complicated. You can try to write it down if you want, but it's not very entertaining. Okay? So why is this theorem important? Because it is used in so many problems. So let's talk about one of these problems right now. Maybe like one more time. Any questions if this is clear? Awesome. So the problem is called, I don't know the good name for this problem. I know the Polish name, but let's call it just the game. So we have a very long tape. Maybe not that long. And on this tape, we are allowed to add some, in one move, each player can add one type of like small, or maybe, let's say one player can color either N, maybe either B, L, and G number, like they can choose one of these numbers, and they need to color exactly this number of subsequent cells of the state. So for example, if B is equal to 3, a player can say, okay, I'm choosing this, and then I'm coloring this 3 cells on the tape. Okay, so this is our game. This is our move. This is two-player game. The player that makes the last move wins. Who is the winner? Like,
Can you change a spell that is already fixed?
no, you cannot. So this, like, if for example this will be 5 and 7, then this is like we cannot do much about this thing except for maybe choosing B again and marking them here. Okay, so if these are colored, they cannot be colored again. They can be like, I can color these three and this is fine. How?
You bring forth where it's going to be the first cell that you're going to color this move, and then you break each in the second game.
Yes. Why do the columns matter? Because like if I choose where exactly I want to, like this is a limited space. And I choose, like, if I make a move, for example, that is blocking my opponent from making any move, that I'm the winner. So, for example, if if all of these numbers are very large, I can choose to maybe paint something like this. And then my other player cannot make any move. So I need to know, like, where do I start and where do I finish? So did I answer your question? I don't know.
Like, you cannot repaint.
No, you cannot.
Same color.
No, you cannot, like if it is already colored, you cannot repaint it again with the same color or a different color. You can, like, it is no longer usable. You cannot do anything here. Okay, I will give you, like, already someone said the solution, but I will give you some time to think about it on your own, and then we'll talk about it. And then we'll have another problem. But I want to give you some time. Okay, can you go back? Does anyone want to say something? Go ahead.
You control like a BP approach, right? So you go recording all the values of smaller games.
Okay.
And then when you are at this game, you go like moving your I don't know how to say it. the thing you can paint, you go like moving that and go sorting the game, like making sort of the two independent games that you take.
Yes.
And
Okay.
you get the next class.
So in general, we want to have some dynamic programming on the size of the band or whatever it is. And what we are doing when we are painting some parts of this, we are dividing this into two separate games. So if you are painting this part, then this would be a game played on this part of the band, and this would be the game that is played on this part of the band. And we already have a handy theorem that will tell us if we can win in this game in total. So we can, basically, because the limits are small, we can choose any position that we want to paint, and any of the moves that we can make, and we can say, okay, what will happen if we paint in this location using this number of cells? So then we basically say that DP, like this will go through all of the start positions and all of the moves. And then we want to know if we can, like, when we want to split this into two different games. So game 1 will be like on the first I, game 2 will be on the last n minus I minus b slash r slash g. So this is the number of cells that will be in the second part. And then we know that in the end we basically need to sort these two numbers to know if this position is a winning position or a losing position. And that's it. That's the end of the whole thing. So it's like just like quadratic DP, but without knowledge about the Sprague-Grundy theorem, we are probably lost. I don't know how to solve it without it. Any questions? I get the Straglandy values for all the positions. Yes.
But in order to combine them, I need to.
Yeah. I need to know the max. That's it. Yeah. But okay. That is max.
How do we know that the Straglandy value for the game?
Do we calculate it? Like this DP is basically calculate the Straglandy values. So we are basically running the smaller games, and then we are like okay. This is DP, so we know the Straglandy value for 0 and 1. And we know the Straglandy of 2 because this is like all of the options that we can make. Like, once again, if we are starting from something, then we have options with, like, what are the Straglandy values of the smallest states. And the smallest states compare of several games. But this is like a state of the game, the total game. So if we want to know the value for this, then this will be the max for the Straglandy values of these smaller tables.
Where does the XOR come in?
You have two different games like that, independent. When you find something,
The XOR is here.
You train B, you split in two. Right? You take DP of this side, DP of this side, you combine with XOR, and you get a whole bunch of values with the following, right? Once you get all the values, you take the max.
Yeah. So the XOR is here when you compare the DP from this game and DP from this game, and then you take max of all of these XORs. Okay? Do you want a harder problem now? Yes, no, maybe.
How do you prove that you after a game you gain that primary value that is equivalent to the answer?
The way that we did it before. So basically, like taking, we are choosing a table and then we are making the move. And we have to prove that there's a way to go back to the, like it is the same as we do for the NIM game, that it has to be solved. So there's a way to reach to the 0, like if we are in the winning position, there's a way to move to the position that is of this particular Straglandy value. Maybe I should go into much detail, but it's, as I said, like it's very similar to the XOR version. So I didn't want to go, like if you, maybe I can even share some notes with the full proof, but it's not that interesting. But you have to think about it for a moment. Yeah, I agree with that.
Like most independent games, can you say this is a new game and the surrounding value of this game is the XOR? Or
Wait, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
if you have a new game, can you say this is a new game and assign the surrounding value of the XOR?
I honestly am not sure. I think we cannot, but I don't see an example why. I will think about it and can you remind me about it tomorrow? I will probably forget, but I will check this because I'm not sure. Okay, let's do the other problem. So there's a fancy story behind this problem, and I will try to repeat this story, but probably I won't be able. It's called castles. We have a kingdom that consists of n castles, and in each castle there's a bunch of soldiers that we want to defeat. So A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, and so on. We have two players, two kings that want to conquer this kingdom, and they will be attacking each move, like each move is attacking one castle. So we are saying that they are allowed to do a bunch of attacks, a bunch of moves, They have some names, but I don't remember them. There's attack 1, where they can decrease the number of soldiers in each of the castle by X. There's attack 2, when they can do the same with Y. And there's attack 3, and they want to do the same with Z. You can see that this problem is slightly similar to the previous one, but whether or not it is not the same. The solution is significantly different. I don't know why there's exactly 3 in the previous problem. So the goal of this game is basically to conquer the kingdom. The last person who makes the last attack will be known as the conqueror of the whole kingdom, so similar as we had before. There is one if that is very important. We cannot attack the same castle with the same attack if it is not the first attack. So these two attacks are special, and we can attack only if it wasn't attacked with this attack before. So, okay, that wasn't very clear. I can attack it with the first attack, then I can attack it with the Y attack again. Like it is a different attack, but I can know it and do it again with Y. This is not allowed. But I can do it X again, and then maybe I can do Z again. So this is one caveat about this problem.
What are the constraints?
That's a good question. I think usually this is, the number of castles is something 10 to the power of 5. And is there anything else that, like, this is probably not important, but I will just check. Okay, AI is 10 to the power of 18, so enjoy. And X, I, Y, and Z are no more than 5.
Are we allowed to perform the special attack like in 2 different castles, right?
Like on a different castle? Yeah, we are allowed. Like this can be, like, it cannot be for the same castle.
Does that reset like the Y counter for the previous castle?
No. Like this is still, like you cannot attack this with Y and then attack this with Y again.
Okay.
Like for each castle there's like a separate limit.
Can you attack with Y, then with Z, then with Y again?
Yes. I will double check, but I think the answer was yes. The second attack cannot be launched if the previous attack on the targeted castle had the same type, no matter when and by whom it was launched. So, I think that means that you can use Y and Z, and then Y and Z again. Okay, we have 20 minutes left, so I'll give you like 5, maybe 10, no, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes, then we'll talk a bit, maybe I will give you a hint, and then I will give you some more time, and then we'll try to figure out the full solution. So you have 5 minutes to think about it.
Hasta el mínimo.
Tipo que haya 2 segundos.
Es lo único. No puedes
Sí, sí, o sea, por día te ganas y es
porque entre los 3 o 2
tenía un hijo, lo que va a parir.
Ahora que es hora por ejemplo, porque joven, trabajado, voy a hacer sobre bueno, entendíamos que pero no entendíamos
Eso es un tema de estado y no podemos estar.
claro, esas son las horas de juego.
No, podemos utilizar como un solo juego, pero o sea, la tira es el juego. Tiene un valor que no ese valor va a ser el max de todos los valores que vamos a usar. El valor del juego y el grupo el max de todos los grupos que vamos a lanzar. Así la primera.
Es distinto que lo dijo el SG de los distintos juegos acá funciona
ahora no se puede ser uno.
ya es
O sea, no, si tenés muchos juegos, pasa que en este caso es un juego inicialmente. Pero cuando tenés muchos juegos, lo que haces es que vas a uno de cada uno y ya sabes que hay
Digamos que yo
se va a perder horas y pero es ganado. Sí, en este caso no ganas mucho los juegos, pero lo vas a ir partiendo mucho. Entonces vos decís, bueno, quiero subir, quiero el mundo y juego como yo. Entonces, eso es Next, todo el community que puede lanzar. ¿Cómo calculas todo el community que puede lanzar? Bueno, pero más toda la tira que puedes quitar. Y cada tira que quitas determina los juegos independientes. Ya tenés un Burundi por defensa y de todo eso.
Y a lo último, si vamos haciendo solamente, bueno, el deck, después como otros equipos, decimos otro juego, ponerle 2 arreglos. Ahí habríamos hecho lo mismo para los dos y después todos van a
Claro, sí, y aparte es escalable, porque o sea, vos haces esta DP, tiene cuadrado, capaz que un logo por next con él.
Okay, any thoughts or ideas? I know why I did that. Yeah, the trouble is that it's ridiculously large. So we need to do something about it. Yeah.
You can try to like build a graph up to some point and hope there's a cycle in the state. Because only
Okay.
the last like 5 states matter when you're computing the Grundy number.
So what would be the state on your graph?
No, you build a game graph, right? Which has like 3 states, which of the last the attacks you use last,
Okay.
and how many soldiers there are, right? So it's like 3 times.
So it's even better, you like, okay, we treat them as separate games, so you need to think about like, for each castle you need to remember the number of soldiers and the last attack, and that's just one pair.
So
Okay.
the state is 3 times 10 to the 18. And the transitions only go 5 back, right?
Okay, so let's assume that there is a cycle that is not very large. So what then?
If you find the cycle, then you can take the amount of soldiers and just like do the modulo of that cycle and compute it up to that cycle.
Okay.
And
So,
then you do the sort overall.
okay, I can tell you, okay, imagine that you have some time, you have implemented the solution to check if there's a cycle, and there's a cycle, but how large can it be?
So the maximum bound would be like the size of the state you depend on, which is, I think, there's 15, like 3 times 5, and the Grundy number is at most 4, and most 3,
Why the Grundy number is at most 3?
because there's only 3 transitions.
Okay.
So the maximum bound would be 4 to the 15, which is quite large, but that's the maximum bound. You can hope it's more than that.
Okay. Everything is correct. Like even the upper bound is hit on, like it's spot on. It is slower than that. Like in real life, it will be like something like 10 to the power of 5 or 6, maybe even less than that. I don't remember. Yeah, but okay. We are saying that we can try. Like, okay, I can maybe say some words. So what we want to do, we want to think about calculating these Grundy numbers by brute force. So the state for each castle is like 2 integers, as we already said, the number of soldiers and the last attack. I'll just call it last attack. And what we hope is that because we don't have that, like when we try to do it, we know that the number of different Grundy numbers will be small because we have only 3 possible moves. So it will be at most 3. So what we want to try and what we can try during the contest is to try to run it like for the small numbers, like not 10 to the power of 18, but maybe 10, 20 or something like that. And then you can see that there's a pattern for the Grundy numbers. And it's quite often the case that there's a pattern for like everything that is related to some game theory. So we can guess that there will be a pattern. We can try to find this pattern. It turns out it's not that large. It can be like even like hard-coded if you really want to, but you don't need to. You can generate it basically right away by running this for the small numbers of AI during the runtime. And then we are basically done the solution. We know there's a pattern, so we can calculate the Grundy numbers for any numbers of soldiers. and then we are done. We can basically check if the first player is winning in the winning position or not. But that's not the whole problem. Okay, maybe questions up to this point. So we are trying to do it by brute force. We are seeing that there's a pattern for the Sprague-Grundy numbers, and then we basically take the modulo of the number of soldiers depending on the cycle, or the length of the cycle. That is the solution. No questions. Okay, so the last bit of the problem is also very common to the game theory things. So instead of saying if the first player is a winning player, we want to know what is the number of winning moves that he can make. So instead of saying that, okay, he's winning, we want to know how many different moves, like how many different castle with different moves, attacks he can attack, so he's a winner. So it's like very standard bit, but I just want to raise it. So how we can do that?
Can you try all possibilities?
Okay, but then like what?
Oh, you brute force the last attack, right? So you.
Why last? No. Like I want to try the first attack. Like I want to try all of the attacks for all of the different castles.
Oh, you want to know the count of the different first attacks?
Yes.
Okay, so you brute force the first attack, you base off the amount that would be the first attack, and you just check the winning position, right?
Yeah. So like you said it correctly, but I just wanted to like continue the conversation. So we are basically checking the first attack. Then we can do the same. Like we already calculated all of the Sprague-Grundy numbers, so we know what will happen after we perform one attack. So this is like basically trying all of the things, and this is to make sure that the answer is not binary and it's actually checking something. It's like a very common trick for problem setters when they want to do something about game theory. Like it's not only saying this is a winning position or not, but this is basically tell me all of the winning moves, or like the number of winning moves. And this is how we do it. We basically perform this move, and then we know already the Sprague-Grundy number, so we know if this will be the losing or winning position. Okay? Questions? Yeah.
He said something about the length of the cycle. Could you explain more about that? Why is it like 4 to the 15?
Sure. Give me 1 second. I think that was something that was even in the editorial for this problem. But 4 to the power 15. So 4 is because we have that many different Sprague-Grundy numbers, because this will be 0, 1, 2, or 3. And we say that the limit of the Sprague-Grundy numbers is because this is the number of moves that we can make in each move. So we cannot go beyond 3 because the max of 3 numbers cannot be larger than 3. 15, wait a moment. 15 comes from the different last attacks, if I remember correctly. 1 moment.
Yeah, because like you want to know how many different configurations of the last 5 Sprague values for actions for the last attack, the Y for the last attack, the last attack.
There are 15 different values. Then I'm going to the state after all the.
Oh yes, because so this is okay. This 5 multiplied by the number of attacks. That's where 15 comes from. So we know like what we have to know what is the last attack, and we need to know like how many soldiers remain. So this is like 15 different options. Okay? Yeah, but in reality it is less than that. But that's the upper bound. And the other questions. Okay, if not, I can give you 5 minutes back. There will be also a list of problems, with some of them closely related to Sprague-Grundy, some of them just being about game theory in general. Like it's like the one big theorem that is important, but there's also like some other stuff that are like just some games on like many players or something like that that you maybe think about. And we'll have a contest in 2 hours or something like that. I hope you will like this one. I really hope. I don't want to say anything else, but that's it. Yeah, thank you very much.
En la casa yo estuvo mejor.